Esmond here for Winners and Winers, joined by David Delano, who is hot as usual. He's always killing it, one sport or another. You can't keep the guy down, whether it's college basketball, NBA, baseball. Which one are you really tearing up the most right now, David?
Well, the best bets in Major League Baseball have been going really well. I'm recording this here on Friday, going for my fifth straight best bet here. NBA last month of the season was a little crazy with things, but the playoffs are starting to pick up. But Major League Baseball best bets, especially on the side plays, have been really going well for me.
I've been very selective about my baseball picks, and I'm doing fairly well. This week, since Wednesday, I'm at about 80% on my mixed picks between hockey and baseball. So have hit about 6 out of 8, something like that, the last couple of days. And then I'm going to be featured over the weekend, mixed hockey, baseball, XFL, USFL. And by the way, we want to remind everybody here, this is an exciting time to be involved in sports betting, sports marketing, sports handicapping, but also you want to be aware of where it's legal and where it's not, how it's legal to bet. You want to make sure you're not running afoul of any state laws. So just advice from us here. Bet prudently, meaning don't bet what you can't afford, not what you can't afford to lose, because nobody beats the boys in Vegas long term. And well, we're going to help you try, but I've never seen anybody go 100%. Just put it that way. And there's so many legal ways to bet, except for in the state of California, of course, and a few other states, but California is the big exception. Just keep it legal, keep the wheels on the road, if you know what I'm saying, when it comes to your sports gambling. All right, David, XFL, we're getting to elimination weekend, as I call it. And you got 4 games, of course. Guardians at Battlehawks is the first one, Saturday, 12 Eastern. The Guardians are eliminated. The Battlehawks have to win to have a chance to get in. Then at 3 o'clock Eastern, the Defenders, who are in, have won and clinched their division at Brahmas. The Brahmas actually still have a chance to get in. And then on Sunday, you have the Roughnecks, who are in, won their division, at the Renegades, who may or may not have to win that game. Because if the Brahmas lose to the Defenders, the Renegades are in no matter what happens. Which is why I'm staying away from a couple of these games right now, because the Defenders don't have to win. So I don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
The Guardians are plus 9.5 against the Battlehawks, and we'll circle back to that. The Battlehawks have to win to have a chance, but the Sea Dragons, if they beat the Vipers, which is the last game, at 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. If the Sea Dragons beat the Vipers, who are also out, they're eliminated already, then it doesn't matter what the Battlehawks do. The Vipers have the tiebreaker.
I thought that if they both won, it was going to come down to points, and I thought that if they both lost, that the Battlehawks would get in.
The Battlehawks lose and the Sea Dragons win. The Sea Dragons are in and the Battlehawks are out.
Right.
If they both lose, it comes down to tiebreakers. If they both win, it comes down to tiebreakers. But everything I've said, everything I've read says, if it comes down to tiebreakers, the Sea Dragons are going to be in and Battlehawks are going to be out.
Okay.
So if the Battlehawks lose, they're done. And if they both win, pretty much the Battlehawks are done. So given all those uncertainties, who do you think our 4 playoff teams are going to be? We know it's going to be the Roughnecks in the South. We know it's going to be the Defenders in the North. Other than that, or the other way around. Other than that,
I think that the Renegades and I think the Renegades and the Sea Dragons are going to get in. I was a little still some of those scenarios with the Battlehawks and Sea Dragons. It seems somewhat confusing because it seems like the scores of the games could matter, but
it does in their calculations, which is weird for a professional league to act like college. You know what I mean? Margin of victory meaning anything is kind of strange, which is why Christian ended up winning. Christian has been terrible all season, our producer, in XFL fantasy football. But because there's only 4 people in our league, he ended up playing in the semi-championship game, and he eliminated the number 1 scorer in the league. On that field goal that they kicked at the end of the game, which was totally unnecessary, put him over the top to beat the number 1 scorer in our league all season to go into the championship against me this week. And the reason they kicked the field goal is because of those rules in the XFL where point differential makes a difference in terms of tiebreakers, which I think is crazy for a professional league to look at how many points you win by. I think is nuts, but whatever.
Yeah, I think with also less teams, it's probably tougher with finding out division records and things like that. But it's something to keep to keep in mind because so many times in the NFL you see teams take their foot off the gas and not go for that last score. You kind of got to run it up in the XFL if you can.
If you can, Guardians, Battlehawks, Guardians plus 9.5. They're one of the most intriguing teams in the league to me now because they beat the best team in the league 3 weeks ago. And the past 2 weeks, they've been right there in both those games. They've lost by 2 points 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
9.5 seems like a lot to me here.
It does. Because I think the perception, of course, is that the Battlehawks need this game and they need to win big. But when you see that the Guardians have actually been, it almost looked like they gave up at the front half of the season, right? Now they're finally trying. And when you look at a team that's only won 1 game, and also keep in mind that these guys aren't in the NFL, these guys are looking for a chance to move up and show that they can play in the National Football League. I don't see the Guardians laying down. I think that this is their playoff game. I mean, who knows who's going to be back on that team next year? I think there's a lot of guys on the Guardians who have something to prove, and they have nothing to lose.
Play spoiler.
Yeah, they have nothing to lose. That 9.5 is definitely a lot. I haven't made a final decision on it, but I'm kind of leaning on the Guardians.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way too. Again, I haven't made a final decision there. Defenders at the Brahmas. I don't know who they're going to play at the Defenders is the problem. I do think the under in that game might be the play because the Brahmas can't score and the Defenders may not care.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, they may rest their significantly good players because it doesn't matter. Win, lose, indifferent, doesn't matter. So I think that's probably going to be a low-scoring game. If I was going to go anywhere, I'd lean that direction. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's tricky because it's with the Defenders. It's like, do they really, like you said, do they care? Do they want San Antonio to win this game so that maybe Arlington and Houston game is more competitive? Really, it's if they care or not. I mean, if the Defenders care, they win this game by 2 touchdowns. If they don't care, I still feel like maybe their backups could beat the Brahmas, but this one's very tricky for me. Like you said, I think that the under is a good play for this one because the Defenders aren't going to have – they're in the playoffs. They don't have any motivation to, run this one up. And the Brahmas, they're not a good offensive team. So, but it's really tricky because you have to know what the motivation is for the Defenders here. The short XFL season, do they really want to rest their players? We'll see. That's really if they care or not.
Roughnecks are in, like we said. They get the Renegades. If the Brahmas lose the day before, the Renegades are in no matter what. And the Roughnecks are in no matter what. I am staying completely away from this game because I have no idea what anybody's motivation is going to be.
Yeah.
Again, in that case, the under might be the play.
Yeah, for this one, if you're going to play it, although it could affect the line, I think you definitely have to wait and see what San Antonio does. If San Antonio wins, I think that the Roughnecks are going to try to win this game versus playing Arlington again. I think that the Roughnecks would probably rather face the Brahmas in the playoffs if they need that. So, and then if San Antonio loses, who knows? Because then you got both teams that don't care, that are going to have to play each other in the playoffs the following week.
You know
No
what?
one's going to want to show
We know we've seen what happens in when that's the case. Usually, neither team does anything.
Right, right. So I think the under's a good play if San Antonio loses to the Defenders.
And then one of the more intriguing teams now is the Sea Dragons. Sea Dragons, I left for dead at like week 3. They're the Seattle team. I'm up here in the Pacific Northwest. They were supposed to be really good. They were throwing the ball all over the place. The offense was moving the ball, but they critical breakdowns, turnovers at the 1-yard line, turnovers in the red zone, special teams touchdowns for the other team. Just they were finding a way to lose games, even though they had this really good offense, the run and shoot version, June Jones. But boy, did they look good last week. And they've looked really good the past few weeks. If you were to look, I think it's Defenders here, number 1. But right now, if you ask me what other team is the most likely to win it besides the Defenders, I'm going Sea Dragons. I don't believe in the Roughnecks. I think the Sea Dragons are going to be in. The Brahmas or the Renegades shouldn't be in the playoffs, but one of them's going to be. But I think the Sea Dragons are the most dangerous team.
Yeah. And with this being the last game, we'll probably know exactly, what they need
the
to
matchups
do,
are,
how many points they need to score. But the thing with this matchup is even though the Battlehawks need to win against the Guardians, I think the Guardians, can put up a fight. I think that the Sea Dragons against the Vipers can pretty much do whatever they
want.
Yeah. I think if the Sea Dragons go into this game knowing that they need to win by 30, I think they'll win by 30. I think that the Sea Dragons, whatever they need to do against the Vipers, I think that they'll get it done. But I still, want to see how those games play out on Saturday.
I feel bad for whichever team between the Battlehawks and the Sea Dragons doesn't make it, because they're both way better than the Renegades or the Brahmas. And the playoffs would be so much more interesting if you got the Battlehawks and the Sea Dragons in with the Roughnecks and the Defenders, because the Brahmas or the Renegades are going to get blown off the field, is my suspicion. And the Defenders, who knows? We'll see. The Sea Dragons have been coming on strong, so we'll see what happens. All right, David, let's do this again next week when we have playoff games to talk about, shall we?
All right.
All right, David, thank you. David Delano, Winners and Whiners. I'm Loud Esmond. Winners and Whiners here, where we are trying to make you a better.